people I don't think realized was he had cameras all over the place, unbeknownst to them. And now he has all that footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge, iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some very, very...
Who's getting the money, though?
I think sometimes Meek falls victim to, I have to explain myself because they be playing with my name.
Yeah.
And the more he responds, the more they keep playing with his name.
Video, hushed names, and a covert system of control, desire, and power. Orlando Brown didn't merely talk. He exploded. He described Diddy's renowned parties as seeming more like carefully planned operations than like industry parties in a single, insane, unnerving set of interviews. He asserted that these weren't wild evenings of excessive celebrity. They were meticulously planned plays that were viewed through well-positioned lenses and stored in an inaccessible location. Furthermore, according to Brown, those archives have the power to influence careers and maintain the status quo of even the most untouchable celebrities.
Man, you doing it, man. You deserve it, Daddy. You putting in that work. Proud of you. I love you. Yeah.
Will Smith, Meek Mill, and Usher. Every reference sparked wild conjecture on the internet. The same inquiry is whispered after each connection. What is the purpose of Diddy's material, if he actually has it? Brown's implications are both strategic and well-organized. These privileged nights' private times may be exchanged for devotion, silence, and influence rather than riches. We've heard the rumors before, but they've never been presented in such a blatantly strange manner. Nevertheless, there are uncanny parallels with details already present in lawsuits and also in the disorganized, chaotic performance of Brown's claims. Prominent, the Super Bowl moment wasn't created overnight. Rather, some claim that Diddy's tacit support, a type of industry favor that is anything but free, is what brought them about. That type of gift, if you believe the rumors, has a string, sometimes a whole rope, attached. With an unsaid agreement with the man who made it happen, the usher is seen reveling in the glamour of one of the biggest music stages, tempting the gossip mind. Proponents of this theory see it as a pattern, proof that what appears to be talent or chance could actually be a component of an invisible ledger.
One of the allegations was that Diddy had sex with a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. Immediately, people identified the rapper as Meek Mill.
The storm for Meek Mill began with court records, which included redacted names in a 73-page lawsuit that internet detectives quickly dismantled. The hints were presented in simple terms. One of the rappers from Philadelphia who dated Nicki Minaj. A magnifying glass is not necessary to make the connections. According to the lawsuit, this unidentified person was spotted on Diddy's yacht with paid companions and minors. Subsequently included into tales of intimate meetings and purported love relationships with Diddy. It's nearly cinematic in timing. Mysteriously lingering post before switching to advertising fresh music. It's an action that draws more attention than it does disapproval. Further connections between Diddy, Stevie J, and an unidentified R&B artist who played at the Super Bowl and had a lucrative Vegas residency are also suggested in the lawsuit's deeper pages. This loops straight back to Usher's door, as you can see. There is more to this background than just tabloid nonsense. Diddy has been detained in the Metropolitan Detention Center awaiting word on whether his sentence will last for decades due to a courtroom drama, such as lavish marathons filled with provisions that were subsequently listed by the thousands by federal agents. In sealed evidence, baby oil bottles, lubricants, and other materials were mentioned. People who say they were there describe a revolving cast of well-known names and up-and-coming talents being drawn into a funfair where pressure and pleasure were mixed together, and the host always had the upper hand.
My social media presence is my bread and butter, okay? So you can't just use me for social media and not, don't just start I'm standing up.
At that point, Will Smith's name begins to loom large and uncomfortably. His public persona has been refined to almost perfection over the years. A family man and well-known philanthropist, he was present at Diddy's Miami parties, including the notorious night when food was given from a reclining woman's nude body, according to resurfacing images and anecdotes. That night's guest list seems like something out of a Hollywood fever dream. Will Smith, Diana Ross, Bruce Willis, and Owen Wilson incorporate their long-standing friendship, their public support, and Diddy's own prompt defense, the more than a passing acquaintance. This shared understanding of what transpires behind those guarded walls, bound by mutual benefit and the fear of mutual destruction, is the foundation of the so-called silent pact idea. Will's frequent attendance at Diddy's more intimate events, according to some, was more than simply a social visit. It was a place at the actual table, one in which the primary dish is secrets. The rumors only get more intense when Orlando Brown includes Smith's name in his most recent barrage of allegations. If there is indeed secret video, the ramifications are profound. We would need to consider who else might be on those recordings and the lengths each would go to in order to prevent them from ever being seen.
Is my man, this is probably irreparable.
The animosity persists despite Smith's recent public denial of any connection to Diddy's purported freakouts and quip about not enjoying baby oil. In Hollywood, denials don't ruin the image, particularly after years of rumors, paparazzi photos, and strategically timed social media outbursts have already primed the public. Although Smith's retort was humorous and frustrated at the same time, it's important to remember that he made no attempt to hide his past involvement with Diddy. Simply the implication that he was involved in Orlando Brown's outbursts feel less like random chaos and more like echoes from the periphery of a much larger, messier truth, because the trial and its avalanche of testimony have already split open enough of his universe. Charges of manipulation, pressure, and a network of favors that conflate personal and professional development. These are the themes that appear in both the official record and the unspoken testimonies of people who claim to have witnessed too much. Now, all of the names that were entangled must walk the same narrow path. They keep their distance without becoming more noticeable. Refuse without going into too much detail. Avoid getting into the flames and remain visible.
Cars. Yeah. Is he this gangster that behind the scenes that is that him? Or is that
Shout out to Wendy Williams.
However, the archive may have more influence than the parties involved in all of this. The purported video that Brown maintains is real. The stakes are altered for all parties involved just by that notion. Because we wouldn't only be discussing scandalous tales if the cameras were still rolling and the tapes were still stored on a hard drive or in a vault. We are discussing lasting leverage. The kind that may ruin careers, influence business agreements, and determine who succeeds or fails in a community based on reputation. From the outside, the industry murmured about Diddy's secret parties with a mixture of admiration and jealousy. The expansive views of the beach, the marble flooring, and the guest list that appeared to be the front row of all the award shows combined into one. But the image becomes much darker when we take away the glitz. Scenes that seem more like performance art, intended to deprive dignity than indulgence, have been described by previous visitors. Rooms with just enough light for the camera to capture the skin's gloss from baby oil. Tables became dynamic exhibits. Planned movements for control rather than enjoyment. With a constant buzz of surveillance gear recording every detail somewhere in the background.
They were referred to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil, Astroglide.
People who say they were present describe the freak-offs as rites rather than gatherings. Days passed while contestants were pushed to the limit in front of an audience that occasionally included other well-known figures. Some saw it as a mutual dive into debauchery. For some, it was a ruse, a performance they were unaware they had consented to, captured on camera for reasons no one could understand. It wasn't simply an odd detail when federal officials raided Diddy's homes and discovered more than 1,000 bottles of lubricants. It became into a shorthand and symbol for all of the disturbing aspects of the accusations. Prosecutors claim that the tone of these meetings was reflected in the baby oil chronicles, that beyond the sensational headlines, there is a real cost. We're hearing from people who departed with more than just damaged reputations as more stories come to light. Survivors talk about psychological effects that persist long after the music stops playing. Lives were subtly changed, careers were wrecked, and trust was broken. Many have expressed that they felt confined and that declining the host requests would put them in danger of public disgrace or professional exile. It was stated clearly by one lawyer. This goes beyond the actions of a single man. It concerns a whole machine that enabled it. The ramifications extend much beyond any one trial when that machine is the entertainment sector itself.
So, Terrence Howard appeared on the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and the episode, this premiered on April 4th. Definitely making rounds because in this episode, Terrence Howard describes an interaction with Diddy where he says that he believes that Diddy was trying to have sex with him. Let's take a listen.
Trauma specialists note that these high-stakes, high-pressure settings foster a compliance culture. Even the tiniest request can seem impossible to turn down when a powerful person controls exposure, opportunity, and financial resources. The distinction between choice and compulsion virtually vanishes when those requests turn into the kinds of situations detailed in court documents, which include protracted, heavily choreographed interactions while under the influence of illicit substances. This tendency has previously been observed in other industries with different power brokers. The extent of popularity and the potential for recorded evidence, however, make a difference in this case. The culture of quiet in Hollywood serves more purposes than merely shielding its stars. The truth is frequently swallowed whole. For many years, Whispers Diddy's private life was kept under wraps with NDAs and velvet ropes. Rumors may spread and photos may emerge, but nothing remains. Those who attempted to voice their opinions frequently found themselves silenced or overtaken by opposing viewpoints. However, the recent spate of accusations raises the possibility that this is the turning point. Federal charges, several lawsuits, evidence that was confiscated, and survivors who were willing to link their identities and faces to their stories. The industry cannot just use a press release to smooth over this convergence of forces.
Don't trust nobody. In Hollywood specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
However, there are still many who choose to remain silent for every individual who is willing to speak. They may do so out of fear or because they are mired in their own concessions. The possibility of intimate, compromising, and unflinching footage alters everyone's risk assessment. It is more than just a bargaining chip if such stuff is available. It is a shield, a weapon, and a possible bomb situated in the center of Hollywood's meticulously cultivated image. It makes sense why so many people are committed to keeping the lid firmly closed. It was reported that the backstage equipment that concealed Diddy's freak-offs was just as well-oiled as the parties. Former employees' testimonies depict a picture of a close-knit inner group that was taught to foresee issues before they arise. It is stated that security personnel station themselves at access points with specific directives to seize cameras, phones, and any other recording equipment. Guests were frequently reminded that caution was required both orally and in written agreements. Privacy wasn't the only issue here. It has to do with control, ensuring that whatever transpired within remained there.
This clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
There were other people involved besides bodyguards. According to reports, Diddy's helpers served as both gatekeepers and facilitators, regulating entry and weeding out those who managed to get past the velvet barriers and into the more private parts of the evening. They oversaw the so-called vibe shifts, which are code for when the mood needs to be changed, whether it was to ease tensions, welcome new visitors, or quietly usher someone out. According to people who claim to have witnessed them, these occasions were managed with the same efficiency as stage crews switching sets during a live performance, guaranteeing that the atmosphere never faltered and the hostess' power did not change. Even among the famous guests, there were rumors of collusion. It has been claimed that some well-known individuals served as liaisons, easing tensions between attendees, welcoming newcomers, and tactfully enforcing the unwritten norms of the venue. They were intimidating and reassuring just by being there. It was assumed that whatever was going on must be safe to take part in, or at the very least, safe to be silent about, if other stars were present and unconcerned. These partnerships served as a buffer for Diddy, an unwritten agreement between peers who recognize the risks of speaking up.
I don't know this, but it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if listen, I've worried about some of the things that I talk about on my show.
Another crucial aspect of the endeavor was logistics. Employees would plan transit to prevent needless exposure, to reduce the possibility that paparazzi or interested bystanders would notice, arrive and depart at different times. From lighting and music to the thoughtful arrangement of supplies, hotel suites and private residences were prepared with great care. Additionally, the cleanup at the end of the night was not just physical but also reputational. Employees were supposed to keep an eye on social media for leaks, prepared to step in or any threat to the wall should be reported. Now that lawsuits are accumulating and former insiders are being subpoenaed, the wall is starting to show signs of weakness. Investigators have already met with a few former followers under the condition of anonymity, and there are rumors that other individuals are discussing agreements for cooperation. The inner circle's allegiance was strengthened for years by wealth, access, and a fear of reprisals. However, as the legal pressure mounts, the question is whether loyalty will be subordinated to self-preservation, and if those who formerly guarded the door will suddenly be the ones opening it.
I think when it came to, it's not just the more serious charges, but it's the more complex charges, where the jury, in order to, for instance, find guilt on the racketeering charge, was going to have to find not just that Sean Combs had kicked his girlfriend, had beat people up, had engaged in truly abhorrent behavior, but that he ran a criminal enterprise.
The legal fights are far from over. Even though the criminal case has resulted in a verdict, 2 convictions on lesser offenses, and an acquit on the most explosive ones. Dozens of civil suits are filed, each of which provides a different piece of the bigger picture. A number of them include individuals who were underage at the time of the alleged incidents, while others involve women and men. Every submission represents a new breach in the facade, a new detail that supports or challenges the information we have already heard. The drama in the courtroom is, in some respects, only the obvious tip of a much larger, more intricate iceberg. In the meantime, there is still disagreement in the court of public opinion. Some people believe Diddy is the victim of hyperbole and opportunism, a man singled out due to his prominence and fortune. Others believe there is more reality than fiction because they recognize the pattern, the echoes across different testimonies, and the corroborations. Unquestionably, celebrities who were once pleased to support him at red carpet events are now avoiding him. Businesses have slowed down, and those who are still in his sphere of influence pick their words carefully because they know that one slip-up may put them in the next big story.
Very, very powerful political figures, and entertainers, business people. So, do you really believe that Jeffrey Epstein himself? And
of course not.
Of course not. Yeah. No. Okay, so there's other theories that he's in Lebanon. He never died at all. That having the weight of owning those films right now over people. So, will Donald Trump release those films?
Even the tone of private discussions within the industry has evolved. It's not just about Diddy anymore. It concerns the potential implications for anyone whose empire has been based on a combination of influence, art, and secrecy. How many more vaults exist if one footage vault is capable of holding 100 careers hostage? How many other influential people own a collection of intimate moments that they may utilize as leverage? And the chain of events might be unlike anything the entertainment industry has ever witnessed if this tale opens even one of those vaults. The names continue to grow and the accusations continue to mount. If even a small portion of the claims are accurate, weary and opportunism, a man singled out due to his prominence and fortune. Others believe there is more reality than fiction because they recognize the pattern, the echoes across different testimonies, and the corroborations. Unquestionably, celebrities who were once pleased to support him at red carpet events are now avoiding him. Businesses have slowed down,